The final American forces left Kabul airport in the early morning hours of August 31, effectively completing the U.S.'s longest war, which lasted 20 years. The Biden administration pulled out U.S. troops from Afghanistan following the long negotiations with the Taliban, which was conducted previously by Trump.
I've concluded that it's time to end America's longest war. It's time for American troops to come home.
This, however, doesn't imply that U.S. global military footprint will face significant decline. In fact, there are still about 200,000 U.S. troops stationed all over the globe. Some of us might wonder, where are U.S. troops actually stationed overseas? Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Military TV. Today, we are going to take a look at the United States military presence around the world. If you are curious, sit back and watch this video till the end. The United States maintains a global network of military posts and is by far the largest operator of military bases outside of the United States, having bases in dozens of countries across the globe. Military deployments can come with various reasons, except for active combat in most of conflict areas. U.S. soldiers also stationed abroad as part of certain peacekeeping missions, military attachés, or as part of the security for embassies and consulates. According to one of the New York Times editorial articles published in 2017 with the title America's Forever Wars, there are 40,000 people who are assigned to top-secret operations in places the U.S. government refuses to reveal. Because the subject is so sensitive, there is no complete list of specific information on the actual number or locations of all bases, stations, and installations. There are just over 1,000 foreign sites for installations and facilities that are either in active use and service or that might be activated and operated by American military personnel and allies, based on an article published in globalpolicy.org by Chalmers Johnson. On the other hand, David Vine, a professor of political anthropology at the American University, stated that as of July 2021, there are approximately 750 military bases the U.S. owns in at least 80 countries. The data published in the Conflict Management and Peace Science Journal also outlined that the U.S. had around 173,000 troops deployed in 159 countries as of 2020. Currently, Japan tops other countries in terms of the number of U.S. military bases present in its ground, with 120 active bases, followed by Germany with 119 and South Korea with 73. The bases themselves are divided into two categories. The first one is large bases. This kind of base usually has more than 200 military personnel. It is also bigger than 4 hectares, and 60% of U.S. foreign bases fall under this category. The second one is the lily pads, which are smaller than 4 hectares and account for the remaining 40% of U.S. foreign bases. U.S. military presence in the Middle East has been largely shaped by its intervention in the political contestation and conflict which happened in the region. According to Watson Institute at Brown University, around 1.9 to 3 million of U.S. service members have been stationed in Iraq and Afghanistan since 2001. In the Middle East, the largest U.S. military base is the Al Udeid Air Base, located in Doha, Qatar. Occupying the area of 24 hectares, this base accommodates almost 100 aircraft as well as other sophisticated military equipment. Besides Qatar, hundreds of U.S. troops are also stationed in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Bahrain, UAE, Kuwait, and Syria. Moving to the Asia-Pacific, the U.S. maintains huge military presence in Japan and South Korea. It is known to have established the military footprint there since the end of World War II for Japan and since the Korean War 1950 to 1953 for South Korea. Nearly half of all American military personnel employed abroad are dispatched to Japan and South Korea, with respectively 53,700 and 26,400 troops. In South Korea, U.S. military can be found at Camp Humphreys, the largest base the United States owns overseas, with the giant size of 1,398 hectares, located approximately 65 kilometers from the south of Seoul, South Korea's capital, and less than 100 kilometers from demilitarized zone that separates North Korea from South Korea. Trailing behind South Korea and Japan is Europe, another home for at least 60,000 U.S. troops. Germany's Ramstein Air Base, the area of 1,200 hectares, is the U.S.'s biggest military base in Europe and hosts 33,900 U.S. troops. Ramstein, like practically other U.S. bases, has hospitals, schools, power plants, apartment complexes, and other amenities. In Latin America, the U.S. has the oldest overseas military base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. The 29-acre facility has been under U.S. control since 1903. Unlike Europe, the Asia-Pacific, and the Middle East, the U.S. maintains a relatively small number of troops in this region. According to the infographic from Al Jazeera, even in Guantanamo, where it has most military in the region, the U.S. only hosts 731 troops, and other bases in Puerto Rico, Colombia, and Panama also has troops under 200. Since 1950, U.S. military has been deployed to more than 200 countries and territories. It can be understood that the U.S. sent large numbers of its troops in the tragic events like the Korean War, Vietnam War, Iraq War, and 9/11 attacks. According to the Military Expenditure Database released by Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, the U.S. spent $778 billion on its military in 2020. It also stated that the U.S. spends the biggest money on its military compared to any other country in the world. The enormous amount of money spent was actually bigger than the combined amount of the next 10 spenders. Cost of War Project at Brown University also mentioned that for 20 years, the U.S. has spent $8 trillion on its so-called global war on terror. The $2.3 trillion it spent on the war in Afghanistan equals to more than $300 million a day for the span of 20 years. In a nutshell, no country has as big a military presence outside of their territory as the United States. This suggests that the United States has unparalleled power when it comes to encircle the globe with their soldiers and advanced weaponry. Dubbed as the Empire of Bases, American military supremacy is real and would remain relevant to future regional and world conflict. Some would even say that global military footprint indicates the traces of American imperialism and expansionist movement. On the other side, many commentators argue that the pullout of U.S. troops from Afghanistan will disrupt the global political landscape as well as significantly reduce American military power in the international context. But still, with existing large presence in many countries and continents, can we really say the United States has any intention to tone down its military significance around the planet? What do you think? Drop your comment below. That's all for today. If you find this video interesting, do not forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thank you and see you in the next episode.